Welcome back, everybody. Now today I'm taking a look at the Rollova. This is supposed to be sort of a next-gen tape measure. It's a rolling tape measure with a digital display. Does it really work? Let's find out in today's video. This is an item that someone suggested to me. Actually, they suggested I watch one of those gadget videos on YouTube. Now, those gadget videos are usually pretty cool, but a lot of them are just narration describing a product using promotional materials and stock footage. They don't actually review them. So I really wanted to see if this worked, but there really weren't that many reviews out there for it. And this actually is not the first rolling tape measure I've done before. I did the Measure King back in 2018, and I gave it a pretty bad review because the laser function was awful, but it also has a string feature and a rolling feature. So I'll see if I can get the Measure King out of the archives and see how it compares to the Rollova. But first up, let's take a look at the unboxing and a quick overview and see how that went. Let's take a closer look at the Rollova. You have your main display here. On the back, you've got the main button and the setup button. There's actually lights around here, which I'll talk about later. This is the rolling wheel. Turn it on, you hit the main button once, and there it goes. I have it set to inches and fractions. There are a few options here. And it goes off after 10 seconds. So the setup button, you can actually add the radius or the diameter. Radius, diameter, and the lights right here reflect that or off. Radius, diameter, off. And you can do it before or after measuring. If you hold the setup button, this is going to be where you can actually turn the rolling wheel to make your selections. Inches, inches decimal, centimeters. If you need to adjust it, or that's where your saved measurements are at. When you want to measure it, all you do is hold down the big button and start rolling. Let's try it out. So when you start, this is your starting and ending point, and if you need to add the radius or the diameter, you can do so. Press the button and roll. I'll go right to 12 inches. That was spot on, spot on. I'm gonna try the Measure King and see what it says. This shows 11 7/16, so about a ½ inch off. How about a regular piece of paper, which we know is going to be 8.5 by 11 inches. 8.5 by 11. Let's see if we get 8.5 by 11 here. Right on the edge, hold it down. Oh, that's pretty close to 11. Let's try the 8.5. All right, pretty close to 8.5. Now, if you hit the big button again, it's going to ask if you want to save it, which I'm going to save that. Whoops, I hit no. That's sometimes you don't have a lot of time to save it. You have about 10 seconds to decide, and then sometimes the big button makes you hit the wrong selection. Let me try saving that one more time. All right, I'm gonna try to save it. Save. Turn it to yes. Slot number 3. There are 99 slots. All right, so those are the preliminaries. Let's see what else we can measure around the house. Some additional info for you. The range is a little bit weird because it depends on which mode you're displaying. It seems like it's limited by 4 characters no matter what you've chosen. So you can go 999.9 centimeters in metric mode, you can go 99.99 inches in decimal mode, or you can go 999 inches in fraction mode. And there's a pretty big difference between 99 inches and 999 inches. Depending on what mode you use is how much of a range you're going to get out of it. It requires 2 CR1632 batteries, which are included. Now supposedly they have a standby time of 18,000 hours, which I haven't tested that out. But if that's true, that's pretty solid. For my first test, I wanted to try just measuring between 2 walls to see how their corner-to-corner mode worked, and here's how that went. So first I'm going to try out the Rollova, showing how the diameter feature actually does make it more accurate. But speaking of accuracy, let's measure this old school way and then try the Rollova. So here you go. 40¼ inches. Now let's see what the Rollova shows. All right, so I'm going to add the diameter first. Now let me get started. 40, and it says about a half. So maybe about a quarter of an inch off. How about the Measure King next and see how that does? I'll do both ways. I'll do the string and the rolling feature. Let's try the string mode first. It shows about 40 inches, pretty close. About 40 inches. The rolling mode, I have to start like this, I think. Boom, 40 inches. Too bad it's 40 1/4 inches, but it looks like they're pretty consistent on being close. There was something I measured in my original Measure King video, which was a painting, and I decided I would just redo that same measurement for this video. And I also pulled up my iPhone app for that as well. Now the iPhone app can't measure everything. It seems like it has some limitations, but something like a painting on the wall, it's actually quite good. So here's how it went with the Rollova Measure King, tape measure, and the iPhone. So I think next up I'm gonna measure this Robert Lynn Nelson painting, which, this is my mom's favorite painting, by the way. We met him in Maui a couple years ago. My mom, first time in my life I ever saw my mom fangirl out, but that's a whole nother story. So let me measure it with a regular tape measure and see how big it is, and then try the Rollova and some other things. Old school measurement. 62 3/4 inches. Let's try the Measure King. On the, we'll try the string method this time. 62 5/16. So it was pretty close. Let's try the Rollova. Now I can't do it on the painting. I guess I could do it on the painting. Take one on the painting. (62 43/64), which that's pretty close. Let me try it on the wall and see if I get anything different. (62 5/16), not exactly the same. I think it's pretty close, but let me try something else now. If you ever use the iPhone Measure app, I'll record my screen and let you see what I'm seeing. Okay, ready? Here we go. It sees this screen. Boom. 61 by 31. If you never used the iPhone Measure app, it's not perfect for everything. In fact, I tried to do it on the floor there, but it couldn't really get the depth. But for something like that, the iPhone app is actually kind of hard to beat, as long as you don't need really exact measurements. But let's try something else that's actually a little more geared toward the Rollova as well. I think one of the main features of the Rollova is it can go around curved surfaces, so I wanted to try that out. So I went to a wall that had kind of an angled curve on it, and after that I wanted to try it around a circular decorative piece in my house as well. This is an area where something like this might come in handy because you're going to go around a corner. Now with a tape measure it's a little bit difficult. I mean, you can do it, but depending on the angle of the corner it may not be as accurate. Here it might not be so bad. 18 inches? About 18 inches. But some corners this is not as feasible for. Press it once to turn it on, press it once to get it started. Now I got to add the diameter. So look at that, 18 inches. It's actually pretty accurate. Now something like this is probably where the Rollova is going to shine, because you really can't use a tape measure for something like this. Not accurate, not going to be accurate. Some people might use those soft measuring tapes that tailors use. I don't have one of those, so I'll just use a string. (20 5/8). Let's see what the Rollova says. I'm going to have to pick some sort of a marking on here so I'll know when my lap is up. So I'm going to use this right here. (20 5/8). So my string technique and the Rollova agree. Can the Measure King? (21 3/16). All right, let's try the Measure King rolling function this time. And 21. Close, but maybe not close enough. I do get the sense that the Rollova is more accurate than the Measure King. Maybe not by a lot, but maybe enough. Finally, I wanted to do one more measurement of just a square 42-inch table to see how everything compared, and here's what happened there. So let me try measuring this table with all my devices and see how the process goes. First up, old school tape measure. There we got 42 inches. And we got 42 inches. Let's try the Measure King string mode. 41 3/4. Close. 41 3/4. Well, I give them that for consistency at least, just to make sure there's no issues with my tape measure. I'm gonna use a second tape measure and see how it does. Exactly 42 inches. Exactly 42 inches. So my tape measures agree that it's 42 inches. Let me try the iPhone. All right, so here we go for the iPhone. It did this last night. If the iPhone can't detect a shape, you can actually just manually measure, which I'm gonna do now. And let's see what it shows. 42 inches. Wow, my down and dirty iPhone actually was a little bit more accurate. But now let's try the reason you're watching for the Rollova. Here we go, right at the edge of the table. Right to the edge of the table. 41 51/64, which I think that's pretty close to 42. I'm going to do it a second time just to make sure. Well, it's very consistent, I'll say that. Very consistent. I'm sitting outside because originally I was going to review it out here. I wanted to get out of my house. But as it turns out, you cannot use the Rollova under freezing or above 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius. And I'm in the desert in Vegas in the summertime. It's over 95, almost 24 hours a day here. Their instructions do note that extremely humid conditions will possibly cause it to malfunction. All right, so let's take a look at some of the pros and cons of the Rollova. The pro is that it just looks really cool. It's also very compact as well. And I think that it was probably more accurate than I expected, although my expectations were extraordinarily low. And I also like the fact that they included the ability to measure in corners, and they account for that with the setup button. It comes with a nice leather case, and really I think the geek factor is there. You probably don't know anybody that has one like this. It's kind of a nice conversation piece, I guess. So that brings us to some of the potential cons of the Rollova. And yes, there are cons, which means this is not a sponsored post if you thought it was, because sponsored posts don't point out cons. There are cons with a Rollova. Con number one, it's not very ergonomic. It might look ergonomic, but when you're holding down this big button and rolling it, it's very easy to accidentally let go for a second and repress it. Letting go and repressing it stops the measuring and resets it. Another con is that your fingers are usually covering the screen when you're measuring or in setup, and you can't really grab it any other way, so you have to cover the screen with your fingers. It's a bit awkward. Another con is that your hands have to extend the boundaries of what you're measuring. Like if you wanted to measure, for example, the painting on my wall, which I can't reach the top of it, I can slide the top of the tape measure up there to get a pretty close, accurate measurement of the top of the painting. I can't even reach it. I'd have to go get a step stool and slide it down the wall like that. There are instances where you have to have the tape measure extended beyond your reach. This one, you're limited to what your reach is. Now, I know one of my pros was that it's more accurate than I expected, but if you're looking for something highly accurate, this probably is not it. In fact, the manual even states, the measured length data is only providing a reference for your work. In the case of accuracy, please use other measuring tools to proofread the values. So I think it gives you a good rough estimate, but I wouldn't rely on it for something really precise. Also, sometimes when you're measuring a straight line, you might tend to go at a slight angle, which is going to make the distance a little bit off. Unlike a tape measure where you can make sure that it's pretty straight. I think maybe the biggest con is that this costs 80 bucks. That's how much I spend on it, 80 bucks. I would definitely say that's a con. With a junky Measure King, which has a rolling feature as well, which is about as accurate, I think it's only about 16 bucks. I would not consider this a good tape measure. I don't really recommend it, but if you're looking for a rolling tape measure, the two of these really weren't that different when I measured them out. This is 80 versus 16. It's hard to justify 80 bucks for this. I'm sure that someone out there will probably say that my Stanley tape measure isn't accurate, or I don't know if it is accurate or not, but it was at least consistent. Every time I measured something and measured it again, I got the same result. There were times with the Rollova that I measured a couple times and the result varied a little bit, because you might be going at a slightly different angle. Sometimes it might slide. There were cases where the roller actually stopped for a second, and that would affect the measurement. So in the end, I think the Rollova is actually better than I thought it was going to be. It's a bit gimmicky, but if you're a gadget person and you're not really that concerned about highly accurate measurements, it might be kind of cool to pick up. I'm not sure it's all it's cracked up to be just yet. There are some ergonomic features that I found to be a little bit challenging to get used to. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep using this long term. It doesn't seem much easier than a tape measure, it just seems different. And if you're going to spend 80 bucks on something, it should be significantly better. I can't say it's better. Maybe it's as good, but it certainly isn't better. If you've used the Rollova, tell me what you think in the comments below. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next time.